It is a basic right for all. Yes, the one right that offers an opportunity out of poverty. International treaties recognize free compulsory basic education as a human right. But Ghana's lopsided approach to education has seen the urban privileged more advantaged and the rural and deprived poor, the poorer.
11, 12.
Talk of a resource curse till date, some communities in resource-rich areas continue to witness deprivation.
The problem is that our school building is not good, and otherwise when they bring teachers here, some of them will leave the house. How the school building is not good, they will go.
Despite the drive across the globe to increase access and make education available to all, in terms of reach and access, the situation in many developing African countries paints a worrying picture. In some of these areas, it boils down to lobbying power and influence. This plays out in the area of education and health to an extent that the members of parliament or assembly representatives without a bargaining chip or lobbying power are simply left out. In the long run, the children become helpless. The performance and education outcomes continue to decline. But who would care? How then is the playing field equal? And with a lot of talk about rolling out several education reforms, are all children benefiting? What is the real picture of a state of education in Ghana beneath the veneer of a heavy urban focus?
The biggest problem in the education sector is the distribution of learning outcomes across rural and urban schools. We are doing well nationally, but in detail, urban schools are the ones doing well, rural schools are not doing well. That has been our problem for the past 20 years.
My name is Komla Adum, and in this piece I am out on the road with my team to find out the extent of a problem, the deprivation that exists, the neglect and the struggles of people to access a right as basic as education. Education. I've always imagined it to be pretty straightforward. So you begin from what we call the crèche to kindergarten to primary, upper primary, and then to junior high school, right? Fast forward, you transition to senior high school and then to the university, and boom, you have a job. Mind you, this is a format that replaced the O and A level and middle form systems of yesteryears, at least as I have been told. Over the period, however, the reality has taught us it is not as easy on the eye as it would appear. Because if you look at the yawning inequality gap that exists between urban, peri-urban schools and the deprived ones, one would wonder if there is a fair playing field. There's been a lot of talk about the free compulsory universal basic education F-Cube, launched in October 1996, expected to have been implemented for a 10-year period between 1996 to 2005 in fulfillment of a fourth Republican Constitution's mandate, which states in Chapter 6, Section 38, Subsection 2, the government shall within 2 years after Parliament first meets after the coming into force of this Constitution draw up the program for implementation within the following 10 years for the provision of free compulsory universal basic education. It was designed to address some of the shortcomings of educational reforms, to expand access to good quality basic education, to promote efficient teaching and learning, improve teacher morale and motivation through incentive programs, ensure adequate and timely supply of teaching and learning materials to schools, improve teacher-community relations. Well, nearly 3 decades on, what is the country's scorecard? While a lot has been achieved, there's even a lot more that is begging for attention. Ghana's Education Ministry has in the last few months been championing what it says is a whole new education reform regime that is expected to improve the performance outcomes.
What kind of quality will help create the critical minds and the critical manpower that can power the country to upper income status? I think the first thing we need to do, and based on the strategic plans, to begin to realize that if you don't improve your education system and make it fit for purpose, you cannot transform your nation. If we don't have that realization, we'll take everything for granted. So when you hear someone say, why should we do free senior high school, right? That person is not looking at the nexus between education and socioeconomic transformation.
And that, for many critics and education watchers, is where the problem is. An overwhelming focus on the grand, the senior high, the tertiary levels, when the base remains poor.
English, parts of the body, head, hair, forehead, eyes.
Education think tank Africa Education Watch has been studying the realities in some of these rural and underserved areas in the countryside over time. EduWatch's 2021 study into the extent of deprivation in basic schools in 2 districts, Zabzugu and Nkwanta South, revealed a lack of textbooks, desks, water, and washrooms in majority of the schools sampled. Out of 17, only 6 indicated having some English and mathematics textbooks on the old curriculum. All remaining 11 schools reported not having a single textbook for English and mathematics. 13 out of the 17 schools in both Zabzugu and Nkwanta South lacked furniture for both teachers and learners. In most of these schools, 4 out of 5 students had to share a dual desk. Some sat on benches, stools, stones, and on the floors to study. Of the 17 schools visited in both districts, 13 had no standard school structure. Academic work happened under sheds, pavilions, dilapidated mud buildings, and under trees. That is not a story peculiar to Zabzugu and Nkwanta alone. Let me take you to the Kwewu-Afram Plains North District of the Eastern Region, for example. You'll be lucky to make it to the island communities beyond the Afram River in the district via a dangerous boat commute for close to an hour after enduring nearly 6 hours of a journey via road. And once you get to Togoma, one of the island communities, it is all so glaring. The District Assembly School, established in 1984, is where the pupils expect to be educated until they are ready to transition to the junior high school level. The head teacher, Asilevite Nate, who has been in charge of this school since 2004, is helpless.
It collapsed during the holidays. We are fortunate that it wasn't during the school time that it collapsed. It collapsed during the holidays, close to reopening. As a result of this, the children refused to come to school. Yes, and being the head teacher, I've been in this school since 2004. So it's about, I think it's 18 years now. And I've been sometimes all alone in the school because there are no teachers here. The teachers, when you posted them here, when they come, they see the environment, then they run away. You can't bring somebody from Accra who was born and bred in Accra. Then you push him to come and stay in this village. It's very difficult.
He laments the absence of basic teaching and learning materials for the pupils more than 2 years since the curriculum for basic schools was changed.
The teaching and learning materials, we don't have them. Even with the teachers, before you teach, you have to go and stand at a vantage point and surf the internet before you can come and teach. There are no textbooks, nothing. Especially this reform, we don't have the materials. They have just changed the name that they have reformed education. We have practically seen nothing. So it's posting, a danger to us. Furniture too is a problem. We don't have them. And you can see the school building too, I told you, is since 1984. It has been this.
The pupils themselves fear their dreams of becoming people of substance are fast waning.
My school building is not strong. Because of that, we can't study in the school. And we want more teachers.
Our school building is not good. And otherwise, when the big teachers here, some of them will leave the house. How the school building is not good, they will go.
Here is Basic School Coordinator for the Afram Plains North District, Donkokrum, Taidu Mohammed.
Afram Plains have about 573 communities within the Afram Plains North. Currently, we have 79 KGs, we have 80 primary schools, and we have 30 JHS. But where we went to, that is the Dwafalang, have only 2 JHS. Then they have 22 KG and primary schools within the area. Some of the places, they have used the fences or they have cut some small sticks to cover the place with a thatch, and the people are staying there. So that is the problem Afram Plains North is having now. Currently, we are, my department is working with the DC and the MP to see if they can also extend their tentacles to those areas. And I can say that the MP has responded positively. Currently, he has 17 pavilions that is ongoing within the islands. And he have 1 3-classroom block going on in one of the communities called Agalakope.
In Sinapukopo, another island village, which is 45 minutes to an hour's journey on the Afram River by canoe, class is almost over. The upper primary class teacher runs for the Siedu despite having lived here for 5 years, still cannot interpret and explain basic concepts to them using their predominantly spoken language.
So I find it difficult to teach them in terms of what? How to explain things to them for them to get the understanding. So if we will get teachers who are able to speak the language for them so that they can be able to explain it for the children to understand better, we will be very happy here.
That's just one of the issues.
We have some teachers bungalow here. If you go, the bat has come and gathered things, surrounding things, so it's very difficult for teachers to stay there. As for me, I always sleep outside. I have 2 benches there, so I bring it outside and I sleep. That is one of the problems we are facing here.
The teacher deficit in the district remains a headache for local authorities. Assistant Director in charge of monitoring and supervision at the District Education Office, Moses Tangwe, wants something to change.
Come Afram Plains, we have a deficit of 519 to fill the vacancies in various schools. You go to the islands, a school from class 1 to class 6, 1 teacher handling. Now, we were hoping that the newly trained teachers who have been posted will get a lot. For now, it has been alleged that over 150-something teachers who have been posted to Afram Plains North to fill the various vacancies, some of them have gone in to change their postings.
Member of Parliament for the Afram Plains North area, Betty Crosby Mensah, speaks about the interim interventions that could deal with the teacher deficit problem.
With regards to the teacher deficit, indeed, when I filed the question, the minister in his response said he gave us an opportunity to probably submit names of residents or people who have completed the various colleges of education who reside within the Afram Plains to see how best we can actually employ them onto the Ghana Education Service System. 174 teachers, teacher graduates, if I have to put it, and are waiting for their recruitment onto the Ghana Education Service. In terms of infrastructure, and so in most of these communities, I have supported them with roofing sheets. I've supported them with cement, bags of cement. I've supported them with some financial aid so that with the help of the community, we are able to put up pavilions. As I speak to you today, we have managed to put up about 17 pavilions and we are still counting.
The Education Service is posting newly trained teachers to the various areas where teacher vacancies have been declared nationwide. This process has been widely known to be influenced by unseen hands. There is evidence to show the popularity of a process facilitated by middlemen to change postings for the trainees at a fee. It ranges between 2 to 5,000 cedis.
Those that are perpetuating this are at the national level, because at the end of the day, the middlemen that we go to, they are not those who are actually in charge of it. They are also intermediary between the actual, people that are involved in it, and then we, the trained teachers. Sometimes we get their contact from WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, and all of that. Now, at the time, these individuals are anonymous. We just believe that things will work out. Before they would begin the process for you, you would have to pay the full amount of money.
Having a GPA above 3.6, you post me to such school whereby I can't have access to internet. There's no water and even light. And the best thing I can do is to go and live in a nearby town. Roughly, I'll be spending 150 cities a week. So a friend contacted me and was like, reposting is ongoing. Initially, I didn't believe. So he told me about a lot of my friends who we have done reposting for. So yes, a lot of people have done reposting. It has been successful. Some did reposting, it wasn't successful. They end up losing their money. It's unfortunate some were scammed, because when the postings were released in the first weeks, majority of people were scammed. But after the first weeks, we were able to at least identify the ships from the groups, and then reposting started going on well.
I particularly was sent to Kwewu South. The school there's no electricity. Means of transport is a problem. Before you go to school and return, you are supposed to spend almost 10 cedi a day, because you have to live in a town and move to the school. With one or two reasons, I decided to do special posting, and I paid 3,000 to someone to do special posting for me, but the person couldn't do it. We're in a dilemma, seriously.
Deputy Director, Ghana Education Service, Anthony Boateng, says such exercises are not sanctioned by the service.
At the end of each academic year, we ask each school to declare their vacancies to their district offices. The district offices will collate this and submit them to the regional offices, and the regional offices will collate and send them to the headquarters. So at least we have a fair idea of where the vacancies are. Typical human institution, and you finish and the request for reposting. The issue is to what extent do you allow that? But there will definitely, because we are dealing with human beings, there is room for reposting, depending on the circumstances of that request. It is either considered or rejected.
There are no payments for this process?
Never. Nobody pays a person. If anybody comes to you and tells you that give me money, I can get reposting for you, tell the person it is not true. And if you pay money to any person, I'm telling you, you have been swindled.
When I visited the Yaodonkor DA Primary School in the Ayensua North District of the Eastern Region in 2021, community folks were racing against time to complete a makeshift structure to accommodate pupils after resumption of school following the COVID-19 enforced shutdown. However, where the pupils sourced water to drink during school hours was worrying.
I did not believe when I was told that this is the source of water for many of the pupils here at Yaodonkor, specifically those who attend the basic school here. They come here for water whenever school is in session.
I have returned to Yaodonkor a year on to see what has changed.
A year ago when I was here, this particular area or canal had some water where the school children, came from the classroom to fetch. A year on, as you can see, all of that has dried up, and some of the pupils did not even know that the water here has dried up, so they've just come here to get some water for themselves before they get to school to begin class sessions, and this is what they've been greeted with. The pavilion built by the residents is helping in some way to deal with the infrastructure problem temporarily. But PTA chairman says they need more.
Yes, last year mobile na fe ansana yegusu yewe no. Nyame adoma ne mpemfo na dawroma. Yetumi ayewe na siwo.
We need help from the assembly. We have tried to help by ourselves. Building this smart structure, we have written to the assembly even when the former DC was in office. We have written to the current DC about our challenges.
In the face of all these challenges, pupils in these rural areas have to compete with their counterparts in the urban and advantaged areas. The National Association of Teachers, NAT, fears an education crisis will soon blow up in our faces if we continue to neglect rural education. Thomas Musa is General Secretary.
Because they don't have access to quality education. Because if you go there, a whole school, you see one teacher, and sometimes you cannot even see one professional teacher because the conditions there are not good. And because they are not good, when you post professional teachers there, they will not go. We have huge challenges there. What will the children there do? They will go into child labor. And we will all one day, as a people, answer for that neglect.
He also calls for the implementation of deprived teacher allowances promised teachers who accept postings to these rural areas.
You look carefully into the 2009 collective agreement. It is clear in that document that those who accept postings to those areas, there is certain allowance that should be given to them. About 10 years down the line, that money wasn't paid to them. Another opportunity that is available to them is this. The number of years expected to do for one to qualify for steady leave with pay, they are to do less because of the area and the difficulty and the amount of effort it will take for you to go there. So they will have to do less. But that aspect also of the collective agreement is a huge challenge.
Deputy Director at the Ghana Education Service, Anthony Boateng, says there is a plan to ensure these allowances are instituted.
We will wish that every teacher going to a community will have a decent place to sleep, a decent place to work, so that you can even have a peace of mind to work. So these are issues that we need to address as a country. As I speak to you, there is a committee that is working on identification of what we call deprived schools, so that some motivation can go to teachers who accept posting to these areas. We expect the committee to finish its work and present this report in the coming weeks. Of course, we are also aware of effort by government to provide housing for teachers. So it is our prayer and hope that all these initiatives will materialize so that probably not in the too distant future, greater part of some of these challenges will be addressed.
But for Africa Education Watch, the piecemeal approach to dealing with rural education will yield no results. Executive Director Kofi Asare is advocating a framework that targets rural education specifically to improve the outcomes.
A poor quality of learning outcomes exhibited or manifested in deprived districts or in the rural areas is the outcome of a pro-urban education resource distribution system. You go to other sectors like teachers, same thing. You go to a district like Adenta, which has only 18 primary schools, Adenta here, 18 primary schools. They have more than 350 teachers. Just 18. But in districts like Zabzugu, in Tatale, and in Kwanta South, they are in need of over 100 teachers. They have 4 times the number of schools that Adenta has. But they have a lot of empty classrooms. And they are merging classes. Class 3 and class 4, 1 teacher. Class 2 and class 3, 1 teacher. So if you have a deficient or an inequitable teacher deployment, teacher distribution, teacher posting, teacher transfer system that favors urban areas and peri-urban areas to the detriment of rural and peri-urban and deprived rural communities, obviously the learning outcomes will assume the same dimensions.
Well, it is clear that many of our children outside the urban areas start off this educational journey from a hugely disadvantaged position by merely being born in these areas. And the problem is compounded by the poor conditions they may endure if they are to have the slightest fighting chance to make it. While government continues its education reforms that appears to be aimed at making an already urban education system better in form and structure, these children will hope that they can equally enjoy the right to a decent education. For now, it does not seem there is enough hope, however wild these children dream.